17 May 2023. I'm sitting here and I listen and I read a lot about the guys in the Cape that want to go independent. I also had some communications with some of the players, but there's something about that independence of the Western Cape that makes me nervous. I think a lot of people are missing the bigger picture. We are focused on the war in Ukraine, and there's lots of talk about who the players are in the Ukraine. But there in the background, the real war is lining up. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to call it the war between BRICS and the G7. The signs are clear. G7 is in big trouble. They are financially, and for all practical terms, bankrupt. Not a single one of those countries involved in the G7 can pay their debts today. None of them. Most of them, the debt percentage compared to their GDP are all over the 100%. The American debt, $32 trillion. Try and visualize $32 trillion. In the next 20 or 30 generations of the US, they won't be able to pay that debt back. Yet they pour billions into the war in the Ukraine. But let me try and make an analogy of the difference between the G7 and BRICS. The two main players in BRICS is China and Russia. And if you are a fisherman or an angler, you will understand what I'm going to say now. The Russians and the Chinese are fishing for carp. The G7 is fishing for trout and bass. Now, it may sound strange that I use that analogy, but in reality, in practice, when you're fishing for trout or bass, you use artificial lures and you're casting the whole day, everywhere. You explore every nook and cranny on that river, and then you fish and cast your lures. Sometimes you're successful and you catch a big fish. Other times you get snagged into a rock or into a branch or into a sunken tree or something. So doing that type of fishing has got a lot of risks, and the rewards are never guaranteed. Whereas the Chinese and the Russians are fishing for carp. They put the bait on, cast it into the water, and then they sit back. And then it takes patience, because they understand that fish is not tied down to rocks and trees and things in a dam or in a river. Fish are always roaming, and they're everywhere, all over in the water. You must think about that, because if you look at the actions of the G7, at this point in time, as we are speaking now, they are so entangled in that war in Ukraine that they cannot focus on anything else. And they are now in what I want to call a fighting frenzy. They have lost all connections with sanity. The madness are on them. They pump money into the Ukraine as if there is no end to it. They don't give a continental shit about how their own citizens are suffering. But they're pumping the money into the Ukraine because it has now become a pride thing. they have painted themselves into a position where they have turned the Ukraine war into an existential issue for the G7. And that was a massive mistake. They've crippled their own countries financially. They are busy disarming themselves at a scary rate. The Americans sent those Patriot systems to the Ukraine. The first one was deployed around Kiev, and 2 nights ago the Russians challenged that thing. And what happened? That Patriot system in Kiev failed to protect Kiev against the Kinzhal missiles, plus the Patriot system was seriously damaged. I have information that NATO had an urgent meeting yesterday, talking and discussing the fact that the system failed in Kiev. And my pet Nazi stalker proudly proclaimed last night that the Ukrainians shot down all 6 the Kinzhal missiles. I just had to shake my head. The top military analysts, all are in agreement. There's nothing that can stop that Kinzhal missiles. Nothing. The Russians have an air defense system that can cope with hypersonic missiles, but the West not. The West was focused on overwhelming aircraft attacks, where the Russians focused on protecting themselves against those attacks. And the West is paying the price. But let's talk about the Cape. There's 2 main players doing their thing to try and get the Cape independent. And I've said it many times. The ANC, DA, globalist cabal will never allow the Cape to go independent. The big problem for the Cape is in their geopolitical position. We have seen how easy it was to block the Suez Canal. And you must understand, with the development of BRICS, trade routes between Asia and South America, between Asia and Europe and America, goes past the Cape or through the Suez Canal. The Cape Sea route is of vital importance to BRICS. The Cape Sea route is of major strategic importance to the G7. The people in the Cape better think very, very, very carefully about what they are doing down there. And from what I can see, the overwhelming enthusiasm for independence of the Western Cape is projected onto the G7. They don't know what the hell they're playing with. They are playing with fire. The Americans don't give a shit about South Africa as such. The Cape is of strategic importance to them. That's all. And they have proven it all over the world. They don't care about the people. They killed 11 million people in the Middle East. People that never threatened America. But the Americans killed them for the oil and for their geopolitical positions with all that fucking bases of theirs. And they want to be there so that they can intimidate and terrorize everybody there. Their days are numbered there. Their money is gone. They're losing their grip. Look at what they have done in Pakistan. Look what they have done in Sudan. In Sudan, the main shit there is because of that Russian naval base that the Sudanese government agreed to with Russia. That was the trigger. That was the death warrant for Sudan. Open your eyes. The Americans want Simonstown and the air bases in Cape Town so that they can control the sea traffic past the Cape. And the Cape people, the Cape citizens, must just understand one thing. The Americans will not blink an eye to turn the Cape province into a Sudan. Listen to what I'm saying. I was, until yesterday, I thought, and my Skidmarks that I did on the Maidan in South Africa, there was 3 of them. I went from the point that they're going to turn South Africa into a Ukraine. But I was wrong. They are only after the geolocation of the Cape. And now you must think carefully. Do you for one moment think that Russia and China is going to sit quietly and watch the Americans take the Cape? If you think that, you really need to change your supplier, because whatever he's giving you is not the good stuff. China and Russia will never allow the Americans to occupy the Cape. So, on this late fall, early winter day, think about that. Look around you if you are in Cape Town. Look around you. There are so many elements around you that makes you an easy target for a Maidan type of fuck up there. And don't forget, all those thousands of squatters, they're not there to be a decoration. They are part of the plan. That is the element that will be used to start the riots in Cape Town, because those people will be cheap to mobilize. A packet of Kentucky, and there they go. So, open your eyes. If they unleash that riots in Cape Town, you will have no option but to get peacekeepers in there. And where is that peacekeepers going to come from? The ringleaders will come from Botswana, from that military base in Botswana. Open your eyes. I listened to a guy last night in a debate. He's one of the main peanuts for the Cape Independence, and he talked about things like landlocking South Africa. In that he insinuated that all the harbours can be bought cheaply. I wonder if he understands that the Chinese and the Russians will never allow that to happen. They will never allow that to happen. But these guys are dreaming. The problem is, they sit in their offices, they're surrounded by Western technology, and they watch the Western press all the time, and they have this illusion that the G7 is the controllers of the globe. They don't understand that G7 is bankrupt. That G7 has been disarmed. Plus it has been proven they're not a match for the Russians in a conventional war. Look at what's happening in Ukraine. But that is their problem. I'm warning you that listen to me, that lives in the Cape. There is serious shit brewing. And don't get trapped into following a grouping that is going to pull you into the middle of a hell of a war between BRICS and G7. Think about that. Please give me a like and a subscribe. then share the thing. It's important that you share. There is so much technical things at play to keep messages like mine away from the people. You can break that. Like and share. Thank you.